You're listening to the Startup Soirée podcast, episode number 9. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Startup Soirée podcast. This is your host, Patrick Reif, episode number 9. Today, we're here with Nick and Adam from Parking Panda. These guys are going to be the moderators for this Thursday's Startup Soirée. In keeping with tradition with what we tried to do last month with getting Todd on there, we have Nick and Adam here today to kind of build the suspense a little bit and whet your appetite for what Thursday night's going to be and what you can expect from the moderators. So without further ado, I want to thank Nick and Adam for being on today. Guys, welcome to the Startup Soirée podcast.
Thanks, Patrick. Happy to do it.
Thanks for having us.
So, hey, if you don't mind, guys, just give us a little bit about Parking Panda, how it happened, how the two of you got here, and kind of where you're at right now.
Sure. The way Parking Panda started is actually a fairly interesting story. Almost exactly 4 years ago now, Adam and I actually met and built the first version of Parking Panda at Startup Weekend Baltimore. We actually met that weekend, worked together, built the first kind of mobile prototype, and ended up winning the event. At the time, it was a very peer-to-peer parking focused business, which has evolved a bit as we've grown. But after we won the Startup Weekend event, not that long after, probably about 6 weeks later, we joined Entrepreneurs Roundtable, an accelerator in New York, kind of quit our full-time jobs and started going full-time.
Wow. So what was the, obviously, if you guys ended up at Startup Weekend pitching ideas, what was the lead up to that, and maybe how did you get to know each other?
Yeah, it was pretty random, actually. I was actually still living in New York at the time and was thinking about making the move back to Baltimore, and had come down and was going to the Startup Weekend to try to get to know the technology community here. I was running product at a startup in New York and was just trying to see what it was like in Baltimore. A lot of people were pitching ideas. I thought, some obviously were good. A lot of them were not. So I figured, hey, might as well pitch an idea that I had been sort of playing around with a little bit on my own at the time, and pitched the idea for Parking Panda. Obviously did not have that name at the time, but Adam, I don't believe, even heard the pitch. Someone else did, and we had talked about it, and then I had already gone home for the first night, and late that night, someone else connected Adam and myself over Twitter, and we met over Twitter and started building it together the next morning.
Yeah.
All right. Lickety split. So Adam, what is your kind of like pre leading up to this weekend? What were you doing? What was your focus on?
Yeah. So I actually I'm trying to remember exactly, but I think it was like maybe 6 months or maybe a year before that Startup Weekend event. I actually quit my full-time job, and I was just doing like consulting for like small and medium-sized businesses, trying to really figure out what I wanted to do. And just like Nick, I was, wanted to get more involved with the tech community here in Baltimore. I live in Canton. And, I really didn't expect much to come out of it. I just thought it'd be fun, hang out, drink a couple beers, meet some people, and go from there. And then, as Nick said, once I heard the idea, we're like, yeah, we could do this in a weekend after we connected on Twitter, which was pretty funny. It turned out really well, and it was, we like at the time, I don't think either of us thought it would become a real company. I mean, you don't go into an event like that thinking you're going to build a real business.
Sure. And look how it turned out. So, what was your experience like when you kind of recognized the opportunity and kind of took the gloves off and went up to take part in the did you say it was the Entrepreneurs Roundtable?
Yeah, that's right.
So, tell me a little bit about that.
I think that for us, it was a positive experience. I mean, what I'll say is of any accelerator, you can only expect so much, but I think the great thing for us was that first and foremost, it was kind of the cash, even though it's not a lot, but the cash and validation we needed to kind of give us the kick to work on it full time. That was kind of the first and biggest thing. Like, okay, people really see some value in this idea. We have a little bit of money to throw at it now. Let's give it a shot. And then the other big thing that kind of gave us a positive experience was, the other companies that we were working alongside, being a two-person startup, kind of literally building things from the ground up is hard. There's a lot to do. There's a lot you don't even know you have to do. And doing it surrounded by 9 other companies made it a lot easier, both from just like a social, personal perspective, as well as from a business perspective, and actually getting easy feedback, seeing what other people are doing, having a good support system. And for us, it was, such a good network of companies that we still have close friends out of our accelerator class that we see and speak to on a regular basis.
And what was the length of that experience?
Technically, it was over the course of summer, so it was 3 months. It ended up being extended a little bit. So we were there for about 4.5 months in New York. And then there was, just like most accelerators, there was a demo day. We did one in New York, one in San Francisco, and then we relocated. Most people stay in New York, but we relocated the business back to Baltimore after it was over.
So are you Baltimore natives?
Yeah, I grew up in the suburbs north of the city. So, not far from here. I had never lived in Baltimore as an adult. Actually, I had left for college and hadn't been back, but I grew up in the area.
And how about you, Adam?
Yeah, so I grew up in Burtonsville, just a little bit outside of DC, and actually went to school at Towson. So after that, I kind of just stayed around the area, and then eventually moved into the city after I graduated.
So what did you each respectively study at school?
For me, nothing related to technology. I have a degree in political science and sociology.
Oh, right.
And I'm CIS, Computer Information Systems.
Okay, so a little closer.
Yeah, a little closer.
A little closer. So how much does your relationship with Baltimore and Maryland in a greater sense influence what you guys are trying to do?
I think from a business perspective, it was, a nice place to be because it first and foremost was, Baltimore and DC, kind of from our business, we look at DC as an extension because it's so close, is similar to the rest of the country when it comes to parking, whereas New York is very unique and separate when it comes to transportation. But Baltimore was a great test case for, would this work here, but also would it work in San Francisco or Dallas or Chicago? And then, the other nice thing is it's a small community, right, which has its advantages and disadvantages. Disadvantages are, it is smaller. Sometimes it's harder to find the right people in the community, or, some people would lament the access to capital, though I really think that's just about building your network. But the upside is it's very supportive community. Everyone wants to see everyone else succeed. You quickly become connected to everyone. They're supportive. They want to help you. For us, Greg Cangelosi was one of the judges at Startup Weekend, and then was also one of the first investors in our business. So it's a small community that really likes to support its own, which is definitely great, and which is why we love to hire people here.
So what's the size of your company in terms of personnel?
We're 29 people right now.
29 people,
right?
And you said that you're about at your 4-year anniversary.
Yeah, well, almost 4 years. I mean, we hired our first person in January of 2012. So that was when we went from 2 to 3. The first 6 or 7 months were just Adam and myself. So from January 2012 until now, we've gone from 3 to almost 30.
So I kind of know somewhat what your job was like 2 years ago because it was everything. But I would love to hear what you're each spending your time on now. Like where it's changed, what your roles have changed, and kind of what gets the lion's share of your attention.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was certainly everything, and to some extent, it still is. We're still a relatively small startup, but it's definitely changed a bit. I think the kind of three things I spend the majority of my time doing are first and foremost facilitating everyone else's ability to do their job effectively. So whether that's HR and accounting things or dealing with problems or issues, whatever lets everyone else do their job effectively. Then I do a lot. I still do a lot of large scale partnerships and business development. Worked a lot on our deal with Major League Baseball, for example. And then, of course, we're a venture backed business. So my job also is, the fundraising is also my job.
And how about you, Adam?
Yeah, so when we first started the business, obviously I was the technical side of things, so kind of built all of our infrastructure, all of our technology from the ground up, and then as we started to hire some people, started to let go of that more and more because you don't really want to be in the weeds too much when you're trying to help grow your business. You want to kind of be looking above everything. So I still do manage our product team, and I am heavily involved with that. But I honestly haven't written a line of code probably in like a year and a half. I think we brought on some really smart individuals, smarter than myself, and that's what you're always trying to do, and help them build out our technology as effectively as possible. I also do, because product is so closely tied to a lot of our partnerships, also involved in some of our partnerships discussions as well. And then, of course, Nick and myself and a couple of key individuals, setting strategy for the company as well and really digging into some of our metrics and numbers.
So I'm wondering if you guys could speak a little bit on kind of being co-founders and kind of whatever anything that you think pertinent would be interesting to share about that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think we do have a bit of a unique experience that may be different than how most people kind of go into business together. Adam and I didn't really know each other at first when we went into business with one another. Things worked out, and I think the upside to it was we were able to become business partners first and friends after. So people get into bed with their good friends, and if it doesn't work out from a business perspective, it kind of ruins things. We already knew we could work together, and then could evolve from there. And we also had an experience where when we moved to New York, we really threw ourselves into the business. I had given up my lease at the time, so for the first month we were in New York, the two of us worked together all day and literally shared a studio apartment with nothing but two air mattresses in it. So we knew very quickly that we were, comfortable work and capable to work together. And I think that was also facilitated by the fact that, while my background is in product, I'm not nearly as technically skilled as Adam is. So we had a very straightforward kind of division of labor and skill set right from the start, right? We knew that Adam would lead the technical half of things. At the beginning, I would take care of basically all of the other stuff, right? So the marketing, the partnerships, the legal stuff. But it was good to have that kind of right from the get-go so that we could both be really focused on what we were best at.
That's a great answer. So I think for efficacy's sake, I have to hear Adam's point of view on that also.
Yeah, no, I mean, I definitely agree with a lot of what Nick said, and I'll just add a little bit to that. It is tough when you're starting a business from the ground up, and having someone else to kind of be there through the ups and downs is definitely helpful. And that also includes, like like Nick mentioned, some of the surrounding companies as well when we're going through the incubator. But when we came back to Baltimore, for the first, I don't know, first little bit at least, a couple months, maybe 2 months, we're just working out of my house in the home office. We're spending a lot of time with each other, and I think having, like I said, that other person to go through building the business with you is definitely really helpful.
Yeah, at Pixelated, I have a co-founder, and it's kind of always been one of those things where it's such a unique situation when you have the right person that you're running shit adjacent to, because when you know that you can kind of rely on that other place, you don't you don't have to second guess the amount of push that you put on the throttle. Like, you can just kind of roll with it, and I've always kind of thought that was maybe one of the more unique things about being in that situation. And now with Startup Soirée, we're working with Nick, my partner, is involved, but also Rachel and Jess from Intrinsic Events are involved, and it's a lot of fun when you have the right team together, because you can get a lot of cool stuff done.
Yeah, yep, totally agree.
So I don't know. I'd love to ask you guys just a few kind of personal questions about your day-to-day stuff. So do either of you have any personal routines that you consider critical to kind of your day, your success?
Yeah, so me personally, I mean, I think it starts right when I get up. Actually, when I'm showering is when I start really planning out my day, and things just pop into my head just randomly, and so things that I may want to focus on. And then right when I get to the office, even though a lot of people say not to do it, I actually like to just clear out my inbox pretty quickly, especially if you can get in a little bit earlier before people are in the office. It's quiet. I like to just get that out the way, so then I could just focus on whatever it is that I've identified as the different pieces that I want to tackle for the day. And then as the product team starts rolling in, we do our meetings every morning. And then we're focused, getting them focused on what we're currently working on. Looking into the future as well, what we need to get done, and just making sure things are rolling along smoothly there.
Yeah. So, for me, I don't know that it's so much a specific daily routine, but I think what really helps, especially lately, is the things you do outside of the office. So for a lot of us, things we encourage, for me specifically, that's simple stuff, just like, eating healthier and taking the time to make my own dinner, or whatever, 2 or 3 times a week. Making sure I do some kind of workout, a spin class, a soccer game, the gym 3 or 4 times a week as well. Just having those moments where you're completely, we work a lot. I'm working in the morning when I wake up on my phone. I'm working at night on my laptop on the couch. So having those moments where you can remove yourself, you're focused on something else, and you're also keeping your mind and your body in good shape, just makes it so much easier to do all of those things. And we try to encourage that throughout the company too. We have, a company volleyball team. We've done soccer teams in the past. We do kind of events and things outside of the office to really allow everyone to have the time kind of to focus on either having a good time or getting fit, or whatever kind of does it for them. But so that then when you come back to the work, you're refocused. If you're working, which when we started the business, we were working 15 or 16 hours a day and literally doing nothing but working and sleeping. And that takes a toll on you. And we're in this, and everyone that works for us is in this for the long haul, and we want to make sure that we're excited about what we do every day for however many years to come.
So it's safe to say that culture plays a pretty important role at Parking Panda.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that just for us personally, the people and the culture we've built are some of the things that really keep us most motivated about coming in every day. The fact that there's so many other people as passionate about what we do as we are is really great. And I also think it's one of our strongest, and I think we'll probably talk a little bit more about this next week, but one of our strongest recruiting tools. People come in and they see, kind of our core values, but they also meet a lot of the people here. They see the environment we encourage. We work really hard for a very kind of shared and unified vision and goal, and that really attracts people.
So you kind of teed up my next question perfectly, because you kind of spoke a little bit about culture and what it means to you and what it's like there. And then you kind of started to transition into kind of how it becomes representational and how it, infers the work ethic that's there. So my next question was going to be a little more down to this month's soiree topic, which is about hiring. I was wondering if you would speak a little bit about what your methods are at Parking Panda.
Sure. I mean, we obviously are a small company, so we don't have like a recruiter and an HR department that just filters everything through. We do it, the way we handle it is really myself and the person in charge of kind of each department is really responsible for being proactive in reaching the best people. We do that a lot of different ways. I mean, everything from, simple stuff like posts on our website or niche sites like White Truffle for engineers, but really to being active in the community and proactive in our outreach, making sure that people know about Parking Panda, know that it's a good place to work, talking to them so that even if they're not looking for a job now, they're happy that, if the time comes and it's a good fit, they'll think of us first. We can go more into the specifics of how we screen people and, how we do interviews and things like that if you'd like as well, or we can save that for the soiree. It doesn't really matter, but I'll certainly say that over time we've gotten a lot better at all of those things. Doing the recruiting, identifying the potential right people and vetting them as well. It's definitely a skill set that is developed. It doesn't just come from.
It's not natural. It's not natural. Yo, I don't want you to dig too deep. Definitely, that's going to be part of the conversation that we get to have this Thursday. So guys, that brings me down to kind of the end of it. I don't want to give too much away. We have a lot to get into on Thursday. So before we go, just give everybody out there the kind of credentials for where they can find you, reach out to you for, kind of, put your ID tag on this thing, and then we'll wrap it up.
Sure, no problem. Anyone can reach us directly anytime. We're pretty straightforward. It's nick@parkingpanda.com. Of course, Twitter, whatever as well, but email is always the best way to get me. I'm there all the time.
Yeah, same. Just Adam at parkingpanda.com. And actually, if you go to our team page, you can find all of our Twitter handles and stuff like that as well.
Right on. So, I mean, you guys met on Twitter. So was that like your one major Twitter move and then you gave it up, or are you pretty active in that space?
Well, I mean, personally, I am active, and the company is very active. The company has a nationwide account as well as local Twitter accounts. So if you're in Baltimore, you can follow both Parking Panda and Parking Panda BAL for anything Baltimore specific. So check us out there as well. Very active.
Awesome. Hey, by any chance, did you see the video that we made in your alley that's hit Facebook this morning?
I don't think so. You made Marshall Street?
You'll have to check it out. I had my kids loaded up in the car, and I just drove into the alley and popped out and put my camera on the top of the car and just talked for a second. And then,
that's awesome.
And then we shot up on Federal Hill. So my son also makes a cameo for all of you out there, and you want to see an incredible startup soiree video. The March launch video is the one to catch. Nick, perfect. Adam, thank you guys so much for taking some time out of your day to record with us. This is going to be a awesome piece of info for our community, and also a wicked good teaser for this month's Startup Soirée. So look forward to meeting both of you in a few days. But thanks again.
Yeah, thanks, Patrick. Happy to do it.
Thanks.
Have a great day.
You too. Talk to you soon.